Poetic peeps and gentle persons, in-betweeners and nonconformers, genders all and genders equal. Welcome to the annual Pride Poetry Podcast here at Eat the Storms. It is Pride Month and the LGBTQIA plus community are here to celebrate. And they are celebrating by sharing words, lines and verses. My name is Damien B. Donnelly. I get to be your host and producer, and thank you so much for joining us today, tomorrow, next week, next year, or maybe even yesterday on platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google, Breaker, Podbean, Player FM, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Castbox, Podcast Addicts, iTunes, Amazon Music, or maybe even YouTube. So recently I heard a well-known, though often disliked due to his often controversial opinions, morning TV journalist ask the question, what's the deal with this Pride Month? We don't have a straight month, why should we have a Pride Month? Ooh, wow. Well, we do. Reason being, nobody has ever told a man and a woman who are dating that they can't date. Nobody has ever told a man and a woman who want to have children that they can't have children. Nobody ever told a man and a woman who wants to marry that they can't marry. No one has ever said you can't show expressions of affection to each other, that they can't kiss in public. Nobody has ever tracked them down because they're straight, beat them, called them names, picked on them, abused them, killed them, tie them to a fence and leave them dead at the age of 16 in Wyoming, chase them just a few weeks ago here in Dublin through the Phoenix Park. Yes, we have evolved. We have grown, we have learned, we have come to understand that there is no normal. We have started to embrace the ideas, the concepts, the reality of identity, diversity and sexuality. But that is not to say we are equal. This is why we have a Pride Month once a year for 30 single days. To say that we're here. Today, this is the beauty that is queer. So that's me being political, and for now it's time to get poetic, and today we have a fantastic lineup of mostly returning guest star stormers who have been with us either over the past 8 seasons, whether that's been on regular episodes, whether it's been on our Poetry Day Ireland episodes, or whether it's been on one of our other Pride Poetry parties. Tonight we have guests from here in Ireland, across the pond in the United Kingdom, across the sea over in the United States. We're going to get hot and steamy. We're going to explore old days and closets and better days out in the open to all that comes along. So all that's required of you is to fix yourself a cocktail. Hopefully you already have a cornucopia of nuts or just a slice of carrot cake at hand. And make sure you turn on the Do Not Disturb notification. It's time to party. My name is Damien B. Donnelly. This is Eat the Storms, the annual Pride Poetry Podcast party, and I hope you enjoy this bloody queer show. And kicking off our Pride Poetry Podcast in style, we have a well-known guest stormer from Carlow here in Ireland, who's joining us today to read poems from his latest collection, Sipping Martinis Under Mount Leinster, which is a dual language collection published by Trasna, Sweden. His 2019 collection, Reading John Ashbery and Costa Coffee Carlow, was shortlisted for the Shine Strong Award, and his work has appeared in places like The Stinging Fly, The Honest Ulsterman, Skylight 47 and The Stony Thursday Book. Normally a lecturer in Carlow College St Patrick's, today he's our Pride poet opening our Pride episode. This is Derek Coyle.
Now, this is Derek Coyle here in Carlow, and happy to read you a couple of poems for Pride. And I'm going to read some poems from my new collection, Sipping Martinis Under Mount Leinster. And here's Carlow poem number 81. When you cannot look away, and you are wearing the sun like a new shirt. It's springtime. And I want to take the sun in hand and open it up like a new book. And I find you in it, surprisingly, on the first page of the first chapter. I can detect your distinctive scent mingled with that of the fresh paper, the light cardboard of the cover. You are the question mark at the end of the first paragraph, sat there by the printer with no knowledge of you. It feels like the air was rationed all winter, and now it's arrived with the iced water and the thinnest slice of lime. I think of your hands, how soft they are for a man, and I appreciate how often I've let go of you, how so like a man I don't think of you here in this world, in my life, until I saw you in the sun so unexpectedly that it opened up to you on a page in its book. Anyway, I hope you liked that poem. Poetry tries to say the unsayable and sort of reach for the unreachable in a way, and to find a sort of ecstatic language to describe the love experience. Anyway, that's what I was trying there. Here's another take on that in Carlo poem number 67. There are days when a dormer window opens up in your head. It's like the attic room is suddenly illuminated in shafts of light. The kisses you landed that day felt like that. They opened up a new bit of me. It was like I had discovered deeper shades of blue and green, or I became a tulip, a rich profusion of yellow and red, a Darwin hybrid on a green stem. I was a bridesmaid and a groom. What I discovered could not be catalogued or made part of an inventory. Something is still capable of escaping numbers. This might be what they call beautiful. That's what I might have said, but didn't. It was like after the symphony in the concert hall, the moment between the last note and then the steady rise of applause. Go on, kiss me again. Anyway, a little bit of love poetry here from Carlo, where we're very romantic, despite the fact we're not very good, maybe, at other things or not noticed. I'm thinking of Gaelic football here, no insult to the county team or anything like that. But here we go. Anyway, my last poem for you here is called Whitman-esque. It's kind of a mashup of lines from the great Walt Whitman, and I've kind of written my own poem out of them. So here we go to finish. Whitman-esque. 28 young men bathed by the shore, nature without check, with original energy. Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. Nature without check, with original energy. 28 young men, and all so friendly. I breathe the fragrance. The big doors of the country barn stand open and ready. I wish I could translate the hints. This is the meal pleasantly set. This is the meat and drink. Nature without check, with original energy. 28 young men bathed by the shore, darker than the colourless beards of old men. Something I cannot see puts upward libidinous prongs. Seas of bright juice suffuse heaven. If you want me, look for me under your boot soles. Dash me with amorous wet. Nature without check, with original energy. 28 young men, and all so friendly. Stout as a horse, affectionate, haughty, electrical, I and this mystery, here we stand. The spotted hawk swoops by and accuses me. He complains of my gab and loitering. An unseen hand passes all over their bodies. I too am not a bit tamed. I too am untranslatable. 28 young men laid by the shore. This is the breath of laws and songs and behaviour. It is for the illiterate. It is for the judges of the Supreme Court. It is for the federal capital and the state capitals. I sound my barbaric yop over the roofs of the world. Nature without check with original energy. And an unsuppressible energy it is too, and the foundation of pride and so much else. Anyway, wishing you all a happy Pride 2024. Derek Coyle here in Carlow, Ireland.
And from Carlow, we're heading to Wales for another returning Stormer and our star supporter, and it would not be a Pride Poetry Party without her. She was one of our featured guest poets in our Behind the Storms interview series this season, and today she's going to read poems from her two collections, the first being The Mesmerising Magnifying Glass, published by Black Eyed Press, and the second, also from the same publisher, came out this year, called Welcome to the Museum of a Life. Joining us today with her love of strange things and fridge freezers, this is my favourite Finch, Sue Finch.
Yay, Damien, thanks for the Pride Party. My contribution today is 3 poems, and the first one of those is from my first collection, Magnifying Glass, and it's called Llandudno Promenade, one January evening. Somewhere, miles away, sand blows into drifts and ridges, hot scalloped patterns, so dry. Here on the grey width, it is rough balls of hail. First they fall in blurred lines, then they are dust, blown and brushed by the rhythm of the wind. 2 lovers are kissing. The hail is still hailing, drenching the town, pockmarking the sea. Rain-split rays from a line of lamps edge the dark promenade, where the air has echoed so many times to, "That's the way to do it." But here, for a moment, is a kiss. The second poem I've chosen to bring along was published in Under Your Pillow, and it's called Opening the Record Player. She remembers the click of the clips to open the lid, the rising smell of thick grey plastic, engaging the needle, that crackle of anticipation before the introduction, how a woman's singing could make her stomach flip, beautiful circles spinning, like the night between brushed nylon and flannelette, when she learned the secret of circling her fingertips between her legs. That pushback, that pleasure of learning to reduce the friction, then bring it forward again, creating her own concentric circles to make her body sing. And this third poem is from my second collection, Welcome to the Museum of a Life, and it's called We Few, Deified, We Few, which is a palindrome, in case you didn't know. Wanting us to feast differently, I filled a basket with fiddlehead ferns right to the brim for you. Ostrich fern, lady fern, bracken, tossing their bitterness with garlic and rock salt. Look, I tell you, I have foraged this taste for you. I let lemon zest fall on those curled caterpillars amongst the charred green-brown leaves. We do not mention that vague muddiness on our tongues. We do not mention amongst the charred green-brown leaves those curled caterpillars. I let lemon zest fall on this taste for you. Look, I tell you, I have foraged. With garlic and rock salt tossing their bitterness, ostrich fern, lady fern, bracken. Right to the brim for you, I filled a basket with fiddlehead ferns, wanting us to feast differently.
We are staying in Wales now for another very familiar voice here on the podcast, a self-confessed Bjork-loving confessionalist poet from Cardiff. His work explores themes of queerness, toxic masculinity, love, loss and mental health. His debut chapbook was the earth-shatteringly honest Spectrum of Flight, published by Animal Heart Press, and Iceflow Press have just published his first full-length collection, which I got to have a pre-read before it came out. It's called Dawn's Incision, and I suggest you make room for it on your bookshelf. He is a Best of the Net nominee and the co-poetry editor at Broken Spine Arts. Here with poems from Dawn's Incision, this is David Hanlon.
Hello, my name is David Hanlon and I'm a poet living in Cardiff. I'd firstly like to say a big thank you to Damien for inviting me to feature on the Pride Party episode of the Eat the Storms podcast. I'm really excited to hear all the other poets involved. The first poem I'm going to read is from my first full-length collection, Dawn's Incision, which has just been released with Iceflow Press. This is called Our Love. Were they made that way to hold the vastness of it? A high ceiling, the wide, deep bathtub? We lower our naked bodies into steaming heat, our tongue's yin and yang symbol. Begin tracing the lines of my wet palms like braille. Interpret the unspoken. We wrap our arms around one another. Tight wisteria, twining tree trunks. Your touch smooth as African violets. Your breath a pearl necklace I wear. Our bodies kelp swaying, coalesce underwater, desire overflowing. Pillar candles enwreath us, illuminate unified glow. Returning to words, warmest echoing, we disarm the Calvary of hardened hearts. The next poem I'm going to read is called Luck is a Flower. In your tall room, I proclaim we're so lucky, and you accord, I love it when you say that. At the wall that's all windows, you lean and bolt, half open, so I won't get too cold, like you always do. Light your roll up, smoke ribbons, vanishing into night's inky district. Still in your bed, I pull your quilt close, closer, study the floral design. It's tapestry. Thank you. And the last poem I'm going to read from my collection is called Regurgitating Flowers. On an early date, we take the train to the nearby pebble-lined coast, hold hands to stop from falling as we wobble walk over an unmade bed of smooth stones. The clack, the whoosh of the lapping tide, like our hearts bowled over, doe-eyed, our tongues unexplored wildflower fringed pathways meet then widen. On the way home, we eat strawberries from a mesh-covered punnet at the back of a rickety bus. I still remember the bumps that lifted us off our seats as we struggled to put the bright red fruits in our mouths, take photos together. Our uninhibited laughs, hit of full-bodied sweetness, followed by that tiny tang of acidity, petals falling from our lips. Thank you very much.
Next up, I'm delighted to welcome a triple threat to today's Pride Poetry Party, and this triple are the authors of Not Your Orlando, a raw, tender, gender and genre fluid collaborative poetry pamphlet that glistens with sex and sweat. The authors are Jamie Locke from the Isles of Sicily, now living in London, with poems in or forthcoming in Under the Radar, 14 poems, Impossible Archetype, and they are the recipient of the Squint Playwriting Award 2023. Joining Jamie, we have George Parker, a writer, performer, podcast host and co-host of Rebel Riot, co-director of Queer Stage Revolution and Disabled and Queer Artist of the Year 2022. And the third in this thruple is a very welcomed returning guest, Stormer J.P. Seabright, a queer disabled writer living in London with 4 splendiferous solo pamphlets and 2 collaborations exploring gender, sexuality and trauma. JP is also one of our star contributors to the Storms Journal. So here we go, it's time to strap in and strap on. It's going to be a bumpy ride. This is Not Your Orlando.
Hello everyone, this is JP Seabright, and here are some poems from the forthcoming collaboration, Not Your Orlando, out very soon, 24th of June, launching in London on the 22nd of July. This is Cwtch Bwtch. Cwtch from the Welsh word meaning kind of cuddle or hug. I want to have a bromance. This is not the same as having gal pals or girlfriends. I want to hang out with the guys being a plural noun, informal, meaning persons of either sex or any gender. I want to shoot pool, share roll-ups, get the pints in, crack shit jokes, exchange anecdotes. I want to go out, wearing jeans and a tee, eyeing up the lipstick lesbians while adjusting my dyke rack, comparing gold stars and homemade tattoo scars as if they were medals, as if any of it mattered. I want to be soft on the inside, hard on the outside. I want to touch the fierce flame of hurt that rips through our bodies and tell each of us it's okay to be like this. There's nothing broken, nothing to fix. This is who we are. This is how it is. Boys with poise, dykes with psych, studs with buds, bezzy lezzies, Cwtch Bwtch. This next one's called Reading Colette for the Naughty Bits. I search for myself on these pages. I search for us. For the hidden glances, the knowing looks, the 1920s version of gaydar is the Parisian attic. Culottes and cigars, the handwritten letters lovingly licked, delivered by the houseboy. The 2020s version of gaydar is grinder swipes, staying in, protesting online to save our safe spaces. It's hard to feel proud when the world is on fire. What happened to those sapphic libertines we thought we were? We can never bring enough twilight, silence and gravity to surround the embrace of 2 women. We are the pure and impure. We are each other's whatevers, a sack full of bones and blood, a skin full of gender lust, searching for our pleasure-bent existence. horror vacui, fear of empty spaces. Fill me with wanting, stuff me silly with a surfeit of love, stupefied and satisfied, I want to be brimming. I want to be bloated. I want to be everything to everyone all of the time. I don't want to have to choose a gender, a lover, an identity. I want it all, a dozen lifetimes in one. Please, I don't have the time for transition. I am not your Orlando. I don't have the patience for that. I need it now. Carnal tunnel syndrome, burrowing inside you, in the dark, in the dirt, degraded, desperate. I am arabesque, limbs spiralling everywhere at once, beautiful and profane, seeking touch, connection, lust-struck by candlelight. Fill me with juddering, earth-shattering fucks. Fist me over the balcony at 3 a.m. as the stars blink in embarrassment. Fuck me on the formica of a motorway service station cafe in the existential crisis of a midweek afternoon, amidst grease and abandoned sausage roll wrappers. Kiss me in the Louvre in front of Mona Lisa. Let everyone hear my moans of joy as she smiles her knowing smile, and the guards reach for their truncheons. Fill my empty spaces with your tongue and fingers and cock and cunt, all of it, everywhere. Now, lube me up in the tube at midnight, last train, coming home, prize, finger and thumb betwixt clit and bum, and fill me with your porn film fantasies. Every category, professional and amateur. Fill me, I'm empty and wanting.
Anchovita swarm. The trans gym class is the ocean, and we are schooling, swimming over dumbbells and under bars, tricep dipping in sync like a twisting bait ball of fish, the slow lowering of our shoulders, a sweaty dance good enough to save us. My lateral line feels you and your lateral line, even your slightest movement. Imagine 8 million tons of trans boys whirlpooling underwater. A single powerful swarm. What a catch we'd yield. What handsome bodies would slap from a net. What gills would gasp for water, aching to return. Imagine the photos of cis men holding us by the feet, our mouths hanging agape, their caps and grins like proud schoolboys. Imagine our skin sucking up butter, our flesh falling off a fork. We're tricep dipping, but have learnt the art of keeping an eye on the door. If someone flinches, we all turn. This is progress. Your mum, she, too scared, she, won't understand, she, stuck in her ways, she, doesn't know, she, doesn't know how she isn't you. She isn't you. She forgets that sometimes. But now look, her colleague, she, is getting it wrong. And your mum, she, says they. There are they. She says they. There are they, actually. Transmasculine kiss. We're talking about Eileen Miles' peanut butter on ecstasy, in the middle of people, rubbing each other's backs and squeezing each other's hands. I don't know you, but you look like affirmation, and you just asked my pronouns. When we kiss, we're like two boys. It feels weird holding your hips, so we put our hands on each other's shoulders. You keep telling me I'm handsome. Usually we kiss women. Here, we don't know what to do. Both of us trying to lead this dance, like we're so full of gender, it's all we can think about.
Choose life as the world falls down. Content warning for assisted dying, illness, ableism, and most isms. Choose life. Choose to refuse a DNR. TLDR, but retweet and rehash and refute the claims your life drains the system. Reserve your recitations. Reverse the instinct to click and react and Reddit. Reading, recycling, repeating this shit doesn't benefit you. Choose to say STFU DWP in the GB News as the Telegraph spews looks across the pond, now mainly sewage, for inspiration. See Canadian cripples made to choose made, unable to pay against this forming wave of productive pressure, a DNF stamped across fate. Check the barometrics. Prevent this capitalistic plague of factory-made eugenics flung like sharp-nosed ink-stained paper planes that are printed and bums away from emigrating here and everywhere else. If you cry, choose to form rage-born rainstorm borders against these pulp fictions. Choose public disorder. Have your reservations at the grown-ups are having a conversation table cancelled because of your needs. Get made to pay the bill anyway. Deposit coin on the weighted scales of capitalism, get heckled for leftism, revel in ableism and hope that a waiter will explain to the fat cat brats that your needs needing cash are the very reason for tax. It's no attack on the banks or their sacks of gold. Then you need to choose to accept that half the menu isn't available to you. So instead you choose to flip the tables like Jesus, like Once Upon a Time in Mexico, like Cicero, like Picasso, fuck up some faces. Apropos of nothing, choose nihilism, barbarism, activism, choose an addiction to extended metaphors and unrelatable references to unpopular culture, and die hard, you raging bull, you son of Frankenstein's result of will, you titanic mutant, about to get sunk by just the tip of the glacial thumb of eugenics itself, a pandemic, frozen and slowed, now melted and served soft scoop to the public, where the 99% of benefits claimants are fakers flake. Choose persistence. Resistance is fertile ground for divorcing from the expectation of a cishet subsistence consisting of birth, death, sandcastles, jam, sunburn, and a cheeky finger bang in the back alley behind the bins of a basement bar, bass reverberating through black lace and calloused palms, sweat wet as a heavy breath mouth threatens to form, and oh, somewhere in between C for cradle and the long line of Z's at the end of the ride. Flip the table. Choose death. Or if you don't really choose death, choose something as wise and as final and as fuck you as death. Meth, perhaps? Choose instead to become the evil dead. Choose to mourn the you that could have been as the country says that you should never be, and catch the wind, spin, sail away, leave today on a Led Zeppelin mothership, go down like a lead balloon, build from the ashes and consume it all, because aren't we just eaters? Feeding like suckling pigs on the teat of eaten-bred leaders, classless and hopeless, feeling a little bit voteless as the echoes of 1930s Germany call out along the telegraph pole. Do you know how much of your salary bankrolls the welfare state? Wipe the slate. Show them it's blatant eugenics, academically sanitized, state-sanctioned genocide. If you're so sick, then bloody well stay inside. Because there's no end to this pandemic or the rope the right will tug on, a hangman's noose made from the unpicked safety net we all should have had, but instead they used to raise the flag, raise the economy, raise the broken, brittle bones of this country to the ground. Pretend you have a choice, a voice. A chance. Advance inch by inch along enemy territory, belly to mud and wire, and remember that stories are powerful. Don't cower. Kill. Drop bombs. Dig in. Ignore smoke screens. Flank, capture, gather, expand. Build bridges. Send signals. Deliver yourselves and others from fear. Engineer hope. Craft homes in the trenches and choose love in the midst of strife. Fuck the right and Thatcherites and all the good old blighty lies they write. Choose life. We perform in basements, ballrooms, broken down and reworked bathrooms sunk into cities' cavities. Depravities layer. The air is thick with our flair for credence, for faith, for believing in that barely there spark in ourselves. The pilot light ignited by the beat of the drums. If we dance hard enough, throwing limbs out like whirling dervish, fervently wiping sweat from brow as we drown our demons in techno, bass, rhythm. Treading our little protest out from the dark of the closet, we mark our truth daub. Sigils on walls spit courage onto gleaming boots that long to stamp on our face. Our footfall grows, an emboldened crescendo gathering pace and hunger and speed. Each spin around the sun, atmospheric is our faith. We settle into our new selves, formed under pressure like diamonds sliding sideways to make disco balls, mosaic glints of our souls on every wall. When I die, use my ashes as glitter to adorn your face.
I'm delighted to welcome our next guest back to the podcast, and as he says himself, it's his second Pride party here at Eat the Storms, and he's joining us today from the coastal city of Portsmouth in the United Kingdom, and he's going to share poems from his first full collection, The Breadcrumb Trail, which was just published by Jane's Studio Press. And you might have heard some of these poems recently being read by Susan Richardson on her extremely wonderful poetry podcast, 1,000 Shades of Green, now available on Spotify. But back to today, my next guest has had work appearing in places like Fevers of the Mind, Feral Poetry and The Madrigal, and his debut chapbook was called Ariel Sweet Shop. Taking a break from his husband and 9 mostly well-behaved cats, this is Lawrence Moore.
Hi, I'm Lawrence Moore, and I'm so happy to be back on Eat the Storms for my second appearance on the annual Pride Poetry podcast. I'm going to read 6 romantic poems from my new collection, The Breadcrumb Trail, several of which were inspired in one way or another by my relationship with my husband, Matt. I hope you like them. Interstellar. Autumn lands, but the world beyond walls is calling. I pry the skylight open, then I shove my head above by way of answer. Serenaded by the sounds of cars and lights of cranes, I feel so very lonely and alive. I look up at the stars and sense that one of them is yours, almost prepared to believe the myth that I could never reach it as long as it's there and you love me too. This poem was first published in the Rainbow Poems, run by the brilliant Lucy Hoytian. Boy number 1. A funny sort of friendship started maiden day in Mayfield. Seems lazy, but I won't distill exactly why I liked you. We don't all want to know how magic is done. I went to yours from time to time. We kept ourselves amused with games, but couldn't find an awful lot to say. Once, when we were about to part, we stood on the upstairs landing, and the fleeting thought of kissing you came in, said sorry, and left. Another parting in school, absent-mindedly called, I love you. The two of us kept walking, and are walking to this day. I knew. I had a dream, a real one for a change. I'd wandered off and paced the London streets, with many things uncertain on my mind, distrust for every citizen complete. Though wantonly dispirited and lost, the solace of the railway station came. Inside, a payphone, rummaged without coins, asked, Please reverse the charges? Gave your name. You answered, all confusion in your tone, like every fundamental ran askew, and only one event would put them right. On hearing it was me, all fear subdued, talked nonsense that could only have been joy. Immersed in my unconsciousness, I knew. This next one is about the early stages of hanging out with Matt, when we were starting to go to protests together, and I would sometimes sneak back into my house a little late, not wanting to wake my parents. the suppleness of curfews. I love the gentle gleam that comes through friendship found, as though each discovers a different door to a room that has always beckoned. In your old decrepit car that would soon be ours, we scrutinised the suppleness of curfews, talking of all the lies we saw and a promise we'd fight them together. The gentle gleam resurfaced just for us, announcing no arrivals, only beginnings. I put a fair bit of peril into the breadcrumb trail, and this poem is about finding comfort in love in such times of danger. The scent of his jumper. I'm not afraid of these blades, nor the teeth they shelter, and if I should perish I will not flinch, but wolf whatsoever remains, for as long as the scent of his jumper lingers on, I'll find radiance probing the corners of the most uninviting place. Finally, this is his last return, originally published in Roi Fainéant Press. His last return. I'm waiting by the edge of wilderness, the point from whence my love has disappeared. If I must wait forever, then I must. The woodland sneaks replete with cleft and cave. He pushed within, we sacrificial lamb, still soldiers on, unmindful of his cares. Though I have often suffered, I am sure, as I have seen the wildness in his heart, these eyes will also witness love once more. For I am clear of motive and of mind, support him every twist and turn of his. Somewhere beyond he weighs my words for proof. Our chimney smoke still rises high above. I stoke the flames, peel carrots, warm the stove, and patiently await his last return. Thanks for listening, and thanks again, Damien, for having me back on. It's been an absolute joy, as always.
We are tuning into Detroit, Michigan now in the United States as we have a returning guest who's here to share poems from his most recent collection published by Alien Buddha Press. Some are and most aren't, and it's always been like that. He is also the author of numerous collections including Literary Party, Growing Up Gay and Amish in America, Motor City Mix, Sunset in Rome, and Long Lost Friends. He's also one of our star photographic contributors to The Storm's Journal Issue 2. I'm so pleased to welcome back to Eat the Storms, James Schwartz.
Midnight. I love the hours after midnight, after his 11th shot, when he becomes what before he was not. I loathe the hours after dawn, before he's out the door, having put on again what he was before. Morning in Michigan. His stubbled jaw in the dawn, his sleepy, knowing smirk. Empty bottles, echoes of laughter, pinnacle and piercing positions. The sounds of humming vending machines and maids drift down dim hallways. Outside, semis lumber onto Interstate 8090. Factory workers and farmers' breakfast. Alone. Driving home. Drive-through coffee and miles to go. The Italian bed. In the moonlit room that only held the best, we lay upon your Italian bed, a time to play, a time to rest. You spoke in the gloom of visiting Oscar Wilde's tomb and your Paris travelogue and Ganymedes in youthful bloom. I was once in a parade, drunk from the best of your cellar's wine. I was your last seduction. You were the first of mine. Cabaret days. She's beautiful as she steps on stage. Another Saturday night at the cabaret. The audience applauds her presence, her blonde mane, her powdery face, her sequined gown. Everyone clinks cocktail glasses together, screaming for her magic, which she dazzles them with as the lights dim and her liquid lips mouth to something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue. One by one, everyone creeps near the stage to offer tips of money and revel in her ungrateful smile. Happy Pride, everyone.
Next up, we have another returning guest to the podcast and now a seasoned Pride performer here at Eat the Storms. And he is himself a performer, a writer and an actor, coming from London, graduating from the University of Roehampton with a degree in drama, theatre and performance studies. He has 3 writing projects on the go at the moment: Beauty Within the Cracks, Art Is My Superpower and Burning Flame. He's currently working on a new project and has 2 singles out on streaming platforms called Unwanted Noise and The Cold Air Crept In. With a love of collaborating with fellow artists and connecting spoken word, acting, music, dance and movement, I'm delighted to welcome back to Eat the Storms, Manny.
Hello everyone, I'm Emmanuel. My artist name is Manny, that's all in capitals. It's good to be back on Eat the Storm's poetry podcast again, so thanks for having me, Damien. Happy Pride Month to everyone. I hope everyone's having a lovely Pride Month so far. I have 3 writing projects out on my website at the moment, and I'm currently working on my 4th. I also have 2 singles out so far on all streaming platforms, and you can find me just under Manny. I like to connect spoken word, music, acting, movement/dance together, and I'm really enjoying just fusing them and trying things out. I'm just enjoying it so much. For today, I'm going to be performing 2 pieces from my current writing project, Burning Flame, which is out on my website, so I hope you enjoy both of the pieces today. The first piece I'm going to be doing today is called Burning Flame. This is the title piece to my writing project that I brought out last year, and it's all to do with me sort of discovering my flame, but also encouraging others to showcase their flame. So I hope you all enjoy. Burning Flame. I have a burning flame that lives deep down inside me. The kind of ignited feeling that I'm going to showcase for you all. I'm starting to live life to the fullest. My flame is gleaming and burning so bright. Thank you for supporting me and guiding me. After so many dark and chilly roads I have travelled down, tried to blow my fire out. I fought through the blaze and came out the other side. I didn't know I had this much power living inside me, waiting to be free. The biggest thing I've learned is to try and be brave and find the strength. But sometimes that can be difficult. I know that. I'm learning so much more about myself. Seeing all those things that was put on the shelf over the years. Finally, loving parts of myself more than ever before. I'm feeling more beautiful. I'll continue to do my best. I'll work harder. I'll keep trying. Feeling more determined than ever. I'm walking on these hot stepping stones with a mighty purpose. Like a butterfly, I'll be emerging from my cocoon and gliding on my rainbow wave, bringing peace and harmony. But I know that there's still a lot for me to learn about the world. I'm going to do that slowly, while I turn up the heat, have fun, and discover so much more. I have a burning flame that lives deep down inside me. The kind of ignited feeling that I'm going to showcase for you all. We all have a burning flame that lives deep down inside us. The kind of ignited feeling that we should showcase and not hide away. The final piece I'm going to be doing today is called Spread Love Around. This is also off Burning Flame as well, and this is something that I feel needs to be happening more in the world. So I hope you all enjoy. Spread love around. We need more compassion sprinkled into the world. Not hate, more love spread around. Less judgment, letting people be themselves. People coming together, listening to each other and being there for one another. Giving people a safe space to express themselves, to feel free. For people to be a part of something, to feel seen. Feeling connected and accepted is important. For people to not feel alone, to not feel isolated. Breaking down the barricades that stand firmly in our way, trying to make us feel like we're not good enough. We are strong, remarkable, and yes, so fabulous. Putting people into one box is not right. Let people spread their wings and showcase their glorious light. Don't dampen it. Acknowledge that your actions will do more than you will know. When you scatter love everywhere, it only starts to expand. Do what you can to help people more. It doesn't hurt to smile at someone or ask how they're doing. Even just a simple hello. It's not that hard. Complimenting instead of putting someone down. Spread love in the whole world. Send it as far as you can. You think it might not do much, but it has such a bigger impact than you realize. Remember, love wins, and we will have so much power to make a huge difference in the world. So spread love around. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this piece. I just want to say thank you to everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoyed both my pieces today. And thank you, Damien, for having me again. It means so much. I'm on Instagram at Manny_Harmony11, and you can also find my website link in my bio on Instagram if you'd like to check out my projects and other things I've got going on my website. Like I said earlier, I'm on streaming platforms as well at just Manny, and you'll find 2 singles on there at the moment, Unwanted Noise and The Cold Air Crept In, and more coming soon. I also host an open mic event at the LGBTQ+ Community Centre in London. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed both my pieces today, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their Pride Month.
Now, before I introduce my final 4 guests on the show today, this special Pride episode, I'm going to read you 3 poems of mine. The first one is called The Irregularity of All That Is New, and it is from my conversational pamphlet with Eileen de Puer in the Jitterfritz of Neon, which was published by the Hedgehog Poetry Press. I've picked this poem because I think it's literally about exploring new tastes and being open to all that's around us. This is for my cousin Sonia and one of our nights out back when I was living in Amsterdam. The irregularity of all that is new. You haven't lived until you've seen how the other half live, until you've fallen out of a gay bar of 5 floors at 5 a.m. and climbed onto the back of your cousin's bike to careen across canals of consciousness you never considered where eels sliver like snakes. Like the strange straight men who sniffed you out in that gay bar, although you're a girl and confused as to why a lech had climbed up to camp out. Finding out how the other half move. Dancing on tabletops, shaking your Beyonce bits with topless boys and bottoms, bashing the guavas against grooves in a bar on a street not a single foreigner ever comes close to pronouncing. The Reguliersdwarsstraat in early morning Amsterdam, that regular cross street where you ran your fingers along the freedom of irregular tastes. The drunkenness of dawn not yet crossed over into unconsciousness, the night before you both lost at being stoned. You on the back of a bike on your way to the pipe with its stairs that leant like ladders to the stars. Your nose touching the steps in front of you as you engulfed all that was new. You haven't lived until you can say you've seen how the other half simply live. We never did make it to the Dillon that following night. Now, this next poem that I'm going to read is one that I'm currently working on, and it's named after those who are no longer with us, those who we lost too soon. As I said at the opening, there is a reason for us to have a Pride Month. This is called Charlie, John, Declan, Christopher, Matthew, Andrea, Nick, John, Jeffrey, Francois. When I am 7, a 33-year-old gay man is stabbed 14 times in his apartment. No one is charged with his murder. It is January 1982, Dublin. I am in 3rd class, already aware that I am other. In September that year, a 29-year-old gay man is stabbed to death in Cork. One day later, back in Dublin, 20 minutes from my bed, another other is beaten to death in a park in Fairview. When I am 14 and find the first warmth of Walt Whitman and wet dream of every single boy in Dead Poets Society, a gay barrister is stabbed to death 40 times in his home. It is England. It is 1989. In Ireland, I secure gaps in the closet. When I am barely out at 18, by the same spot in Fairview where other was killed, the taxi driver slows down. He hopes I'll share beers, anything he might like to put his lips around. I am 23 when I first nibble New York, stay in a suite at the Mayflower, watch the sunrise over Central Park, see Rent, Chicago, Gypsy, drink at Sardi's. It is June. I touch all they beat down once in Stonewall, march in the parade, feel far from fear, hold hands outside. 4 months later, Matthew Shepard is found tied to a fence at 16, a gay student in Wyoming, beaten and tortured. He dies 5 days later. There are 7,200 minutes between finding and losing. When I am 24 2 months after packing Paris onto the Eurostar and emptying into the UK, they nail bomb Admiral Duncan, a gay pub in London. We're in Birmingham, dreaming of London, hunting for a home, Hampstead, testing kisses in the half shadows of 1999's light. When I'm 27, leaving South London, Sean and security, they beat to death a 57-year-old gay man down the road in Croydon, in a well-known cruising area. Known for its previous attacks, but the police are busy dealing with their own homophobia to focus on the killing. It is 2002. The same year, the 15-year-old gay boy is beaten and drowned in Rheims in France, where I once drank champagne in a glass so fragile that I figured my own fingers would crush it before I ever managed to bring it to my lips. His parents are jailed for neglect. We are so far from a place beyond hatred. When I am 48, Forbes reports that 320 trans and gender diverse people have been killed this year. It is 2023. A part of me inside is still 7 in a closet, barricading all the exits. Next up to the podcast is another returning guest and the visionary behind the exceptional Impossible Archetype, the journal of LGBTQ+ poetry. He himself is the author of the collection Nightlight from Salmon Poetry in 2023, the chapbook Fault Lines, which came out just this year, Carcass from 2020, and Circumference from 7 Kitchens Press in 2018. He's been widely published, highly commended in the 2019 and 2022 Patrick Kavanagh Awards, and was selected as one of the 2020 Poetry Ireland Introduction Series awardees. And here at the Storms, I nominated his poem from the inaugural issue of the Storms for a Pushcart Prize. This is the always excellent Mark Ward.
Hi, my name is Mark Ward and I'm here with 3 poems for you today. Happy Pride, everybody. This first poem is from a book forthcoming with the Emma Press called Masters, and it is a series of response poems to dead queer male painters' paintings. This poem is after Henry Robertson Craig's painting Sunset. The sea has called the tides in for dinner. We walk the strand, submerged throughout the day, relishing the wet sand hugging our boots. The first dinghy we come to is occupied. Tom from last month, supine and stargazing, watches us pass in his periphery. We find a small sailboat and settle in. For once, we seem equally excited. We watch the sunlight become indirect. You worry that the dunes are busier. I kiss you, and it feels like the funfair where we first met. The others are watching. The boys we were find each other again. In the air. I make you come without either of us touching your dick, and the awe in your face. We are surrounded by fog. You drove us up the mountains, beyond where lovers park. I got out to take a piss and couldn't see in front of me, not fog, but thick clouds. The Super Mario level where the world theoretically exists below us, but only if you fall. A car crept by. It just missed hitting us. It doesn't realize we are here. You have never been as relaxed as this. Our hard breathing slows, softens. Shall we go? I nod and you drive through the clouds, my face pressed to the windscreen. This last poem is for Andrew Macmillan, and it's a response to a line in one of his recent uncollected poems, and this is called Hovercraft. Now I move through the world like it was made for me. Each decision is hopscotch, the checkerboard of soft landings ahead. My legs free from having to drag me to a destination. Instead, I leap and I am airborne. devoid of choice. Surrounded by it, I can twist and shift, change course, I could retrace my steps, I can do anything, go anywhere, I could even stay here, hovering above the ground. I'm sure it would start to get lonely, but I could deal with it, warming myself with possibility. I don't know where I land, if I still can, if I ever will.
We are staying in Ireland for my next guest, who's the author of 3 poetry collections: The River from 2015, When a Tree Falls from 2019, and most recently, A Change in the Air, published by Blood Axe Books. And A Change in the Air was shortlisted for the Forward Prize Best Collection and also the T.S. Eliot Prize in 2023. So I hope to Jesus you have this on your bookshelf. This Poets Award includes the Ireland Chair of Poetry Travel Award 2022, the Hennessy Literary Award for Poetry in 2016, and the Listowel Writer of the Week Poem of the Year 2016, and was one of my first guests at the beginning of Season 8, so it's a joy to have her back now to celebrate Pride with us here at the end of Season 8. This is Jane Clark.
Thank you, Damien, for inviting me to contribute to the Pride podcast. There are Pride poems in each of my collections, but today I'll read 3 from A Change in the Air, the collection that was published this time last year by Blood Axe Books. The first poem is set in the Mater Hospital in Dublin in the mid-1990s. A time when my partner and I, like most queer couples of the time, had to be circumspect about our relationship. Mater misericordiae. Still new to each other when you found the lump, we held our breath as the surgeon marked the spot with an X. A porter pushed your trolley down the echoing corridor. I stayed at the edge of your bed. The matron asked, was I a relation? And under the Sacred Heart lamp, I called myself a friend. Later, I searched for coins and a payphone to tell your mother you were back in the ward, sleepy but smiling. The rose-petal scar on your breast was tiny, but enough to remind us we'd already found what mattered. And the second poem is set in a different Ireland, almost 20 years later, when we go to the HSE offices in Wicklow Town to register for our civil partnership. Her first. The sun tries to shine through narrow frosted windows, while we wait with the other births, deaths and marriages. Close to lunchtime, the registrar ushers us into her office. Stacks of files on every surface look set to topple. She murmurs, "You're my first," and reads out the regulations. Then shuffles through papers, studies the stapler on her desk, and reads them again. When we tell her we've been together 20 years, she stops searching for a biro, meets our eyes and smiles. It'll be a beautiful day. And my third poem is a love poem set in June, so it seems perfect for Pride. But before I read it, I'd just like to say that even though things have changed so much in Ireland and around the world for queer people since I came out in my early 20s, which is about 40 years ago, I think we need Pride as much as ever and maybe more, because we can't take our rights or the rights of any other minority or disadvantaged oppressed groups for granted. It's a worrying time politically at the moment all over the world, and so we need times and places to celebrate and to stand up for equality. So I'll finish with this poem, June. Because wild rose fills the garden to the sultry scented brim, and hawk moths flock to fuchsia, humming a wordless hymn. Because pipistrels flicker past, heartbeats on the wing, and tonight's the eve of your birthday, the air warm as your skin. Because it's bright till almost midnight, and the days will be short too soon. Let's stay out here and listen for the wood pigeon's 5-note tune. Thank you.
My next guest was last with us to read poems from her fantastic pamphlet, Don't Forget Your Toothbrush, which was published by Flight of the Dragonfly. She is an energetic performance poet and host with work that focuses on lesbian stereotypes, love, loss and friendships, and often known for her raunchy themes. So let's see what she's going to bring to the podcast today. She is also, as she said herself, a card-carrying member of the National Trust. She's also the co-founder and host of Diversion at Ledbury Poetry, a spoken word evening showcasing emerging talent next to established poets. And she'll be performing at the Ledbury Poetry Festival this year, which takes place between the 28th of June and the 7th of July. I'm delighted to welcome back to Eat the Storms, Emma Clousley.
Hello and happy Pride. I'm Emma Clousley and I'm chuffed to bits to be part of the Eat the Storms Pride special, with thanks to Damien for putting this all together for us. So my first poem is Just in Case, from my pamphlet, Don't Forget Your Toothbrush. The car's packed to the rafters, weighed down to snail's pace. I've everything I'll ever need, you know, just in case. You'd never know who you might meet when popping out for tea. I'd rather carry my life around. I won't be caught short, no, not me. Toothbrush and clean knickers, essentials. I'd argue other items too. I've loaded the car with suitcases ready for when I bump into you. The sniggers haven't gone unnoticed, feel free to take the piss. But when my future life partner strolls by, the opportunity I won't miss. I've a bulging bag of face creams, a plethora of hair products to binge. Did I mention I love stroking hair? Will you let me touch your fringe? Several bags of toiletries, gym jams, sexy knickknacks, a fully charged phone so we can spend all day watching TikToks. Flat pack cardboard boxes, everything has got its place. Blankets on the back seat, it's all packed up just in case. A dog lead and a check shirt, Sue Perkins' autobiography, a toolbox with thingies in it and a K.D. Lang CD. A neatly wickered hamper for picnics on the green. 4 cans of lager and a multi-pack of kombucha for when we're living clean. Yes, I've even packed the kitchen sink and filled my flask with tea. Something for every occasion, just in case you're into me. A pair of muddy Dr. Martens, thick woolly jumper blue. Might need to upgrade to a camper van to fit you in there too, and I realise it's a bit OTT. But you should see your face when I show you what's inside my trunk. I've packed it all, just in case. Now this next poem is called Pride, and I would tend to read this at, read this at Warwickshire Pride last year. Arm in arm, we say it loud. We're LGBTQIA and proud. Siblings, we raise each other high. We paint a rainbow in the sky. There's room for blue and pink and white and black and brown. We still have to fight for rights. All aboard this roller coaster ride, I hold my girlfriend's hand with pride. We're not equal until we all have a place to love, to be, to pee, where we all feel safe. We celebrate our individuality and how we're more than just our sexuality. We are nurses, posties, shop workers, lovers, friends, carers, children of fathers and mothers. We tread in the footsteps of those before us who marched for pride, for love, heads high. Arm in arm, we say it loud. We're LGBTQIA and proud. Siblings, we raise each other high. We paint a rainbow in the sky. This last poem is printed in an anthology called Prism, and it's published by the Word Association, who are fantastic. It's called National Trust Lesbian. With one hand in her pocket, she gets down on one knee. Asks me if I'll consider, as she wants to join with me. There's a fire burning in her eyes, I can tell she's really wired, and this is a planned proposal, she pleads. Let's not wait till we're retired. She doesn't want to get married. I'll say, yeah, sure if I must. Darling, she says, will you share a membership for a National Trust? We can Google the locations, pin a map upon the wall. With a bit of careful planning, we could try to conquer them all. Let's invest in a picnic basket, matching bags, a camper van. We can travel round the country, starting down the road in Cambran. The fuddy-duddy stereotypes, I'll take it on the chin. As long as there's a tea room and facilities for everyone, I'm in. She smugly smiles at me, and into my hand she thrusts 2 shiny matching membership cards. We're hitched with National Trust. Thank you.
And for our final guest on this very special episode celebrating Pride Month, we have a first-time guest who was born in Watford but now lives in Hove in the United Kingdom. His first collection, The Frost Hares, won the Polari First Book Prize in 2012. His second collection, Spacecraft, was shortlisted for the Ledbury Fort Poetry Prize and named as one of The Guardian's best books. His third collection, Reckless Paper Birds, won the Hawthornden Prize and was shortlisted for the Coster Poetry Award, and since then, his poem Flower of Sulphur was shortlisted for the 2021 Forward Prize for Best Single Poem. And 2022 saw the release of his fourth collection, Panic Responses, all available from Penned in the Margins. So if you don't have them on your bookshelves, off you go and sort that out. This is the exceptional John McCulloch.
Hello there, my name's John McCulloch and I'm going to read to you 2 poems exploring class and sexuality. Bad Habits. I saw a magpie snatch a cigarette from dirt and wave it like a sparkler. Stained black and white tracksuit, bag in its beak. I raised my cap. It could have been my first boyfriend. Raspy, fond of impossible things. He lied about his name and age and being single. How typical if he's now a bird, didn't really die. He landed on me with one cocky bound, and my body snapped up everything he fed it. My mind, less convinced, hopped behind as I learned repulsive habits. Smoke rings, sweet talk, how to ransack the invisible. I saw a magpie swing a cigarette like a sparkler, writing its secret name. Or at least, that's what I wanted you to see. Giraffe. You're working class, my lad. Don't you forget it, said Mum, voice raised and finger hovering. She was talking to a giraffe, a lanky boy prone to ideas above his station, soft ways of slipping skyward. I loved being a giraffe, though, a vegetarian in fairyland, the staircase of my neck leading nowhere sharp. I loved not being a lion, even though that meant being hunted, carnivores slashing at me till I galloped away. I loved withdrawing to invisible acacias, cathedrals of leaves where my elastic tongue licked what it liked. Because I loved discovering other giraffes, entwining bodies and probing necks, or simply standing together as a crowd, as a forest of extravagant breathing.
Well, peeps and gentle persons, in-betweeners and nonconformers, genders all and genders equal, we've reached the end of this very special Pride Poetry Party here at Eat the Storms, the Poetry Podcast. Thank you to you, the listeners, so much for tuning in on platforms like Spotify, Apple, Google, Breaker, Podbean, Player FM, Overcast, Pocketcast, Castbox, Podcast Addicts, iTunes, Amazon Music and YouTube. My name is Damien B. Donnelly. I've been your host and producer, and I want to say an enormous thank you to the incredible voices that have joined me here on this podcast today. And they have been Derek Coyle, Sue Finch, David Hanlon, JC Seabright, Jamie Locke, George Parker, Lawrence Moore, Manny, Mark Ward, James Schwartz, Jane Clark, Emma Clousley and John McCulloch. As always, and you know the drill by this point, if you're looking for details, websites or social media handles for any of my guests on the show today, then head on over to eatthestorms.com, click on the podcast section and there you will find a podcast listing for every episode. This was the Pride Poetry Party 2024, and in that blog post you will find bios, photos, social media handles so you can find, follow and be total and complete, utterly obsessed fans to all of today's stars. Now, I would like to remind you that on the 1st of July, The Storms, our printed journal of poetry, prose and visual arts, opens its doors for submissions for issue 4. This year, we are supported by UNESCO Dublin City of Literature, and I'm delighted to say that the fitting theme for this issue is Dublin Days, from city to shore and across the sea. I am looking for tales of what Dublin means to you, what Dublin is today. Has it been your home, your holiday destination, or is it on your bucket list? I'm looking for poetry, prose, fiction and non-fiction, photography, painting, collage from all around the world. The theme may be Dublin, but Dublin and Ireland itself is a huge diaspora. What have you taken from the country and where have you placed it down on the soil of another shore? And with that, that's all for season 8. We've had 17 wonderful episodes, 2 special Pride parties, and we kicked off our Behind the Storms interviews, so that every episode I got to chat with at least one of my guests about their beginnings, about how they became a poet, why they became a poet, and right on up to developing their collections and putting their collections out there. So thank you so much once again to all of you for tuning in, for joining in, for cheering, for reposting, retweeting, for shouting about us. It is a joy to know that you're out there listening in. So from me, finally, this season, Damien B. Donnelly, a huge thank you. And until we meet again, all together now, stay bloody poetic.